Alright, so this week we watched Black Sunday. It's from 1960. It was written and directed by Mario Bava. He is the entire reason it's on the list. He is a big name in the horror genre, and when I was looking for a European film, I saw his name pop up and I'm like, yes, give me that. The film has an alternate title, The Mask of Satan, which honestly probably would have been a little bit more fitting for the actual title that they went with. We don't know what day of the week this takes place on. Doesn't really come up, but we do see a couple of masks of Satan, so this is perhaps a little bit more fitting. It stars John Richardson, who is no longer with us, and Barbara Steele, who, at 87 years old, is still kicking around. Ooh. She, in fact, won a BAFTA, and has been in many other horror films, including, The Pit and the Pendulum, and also 8½, which I saw a lot when doing research for this list, because it's directed by Federico Fellini. Back to Black Sunday, though. So, this film, it opens up in the 1600s, in the country of Moldavia, which did exist at the time. No longer exists and has been absorbed into the countries of Romania, Moldova, and a little bit in Ukraine. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so this is set in, days long past. They're executing the witch, who is like the local princess, and also her lover, who is a male witch, warlock perhaps? They don't really go into specific titles. They're in league with Satan. They have made a bargain with Satan for wicked powers, and so now they gotta be killed. They do this by putting the mask of Satan on their faces, branding them with a big S, which I have not done the research. Does that make the same sound in Cyrillic as it does in Latin script? I don't know. But yeah, they put this mask on their faces, and the mask has all these spikes inside, and then they hammer the mask into place. The next step was to burn the bodies, but then they didn't do that. It wound up raining, so they couldn't burn the bodies. So instead they just sort of buried them with crosses facing them, and windows in the caskets, so that they would be looking at the crosses the whole time, and that would keep them from getting up. Why they didn't just come back the next week after it dried out, I don't know. Then it fast forwards 200 years. It just says 2 centuries later, and then there's these 2 doctors going down the road in a carriage, and I'm like, okay, so is this still set in Moldavia? And I had to question myself for a second. I'm like, wait, when did Moldavia cease to exist? Moldavia ceased to exist in the 1850s, and I have reason to suspect that this is set in the 1830s. Because one of the doctors... No, the guy driving the carriage. So the guy driving the carriage talked about how he fought against the forces of Napoleon, and he wasn't scared of them, but he is scared of the spooky forest, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So assuming they're talking about the first Napoleonic Wars against the first Napoleon, and not Napoleon III, we can safely place this in sometime around the 1830s, because this guy is not looking super old or anything. And as long as this is taking place before the 1850s, Moldavia still exists. Otherwise, we have fast-forwarded into Romania, probably. So these 2 doctors, one of them is clearly our protagonist, and the other one is like a sidekick, kind of. They tell the stagecoach driver they want to get where they're going quicker, so we'll take the shortcut through the spooky woods. Here's some extra cash. Just go through the spooky woods. What's wrong with you? And so he's like, oh fine, I'll go through the spooky woods. And so they go through the spooky woods. And as they're going through the spooky woods, they hit a bump, and the carriage's wheel falls off. And they're like, what the hell happened? And they're like, is it bad? And he's like, no, I can get it fixed. Let me get this back up and running quickly. I really want to get out of these spooky woods. And there's this noise just punctuating the scene, just in the air. You're like, this sounds like you almost think that it's not diegetic. You think that this is a sound that would have been inserted by the score later on. But no, they're like, what's that noise? What's the spooky noise we're hearing? They can hear that they're in a horror film, and they don't even get it because these are they're making the point that these are science guys. They're into science, they're not into superstition. And so they're like, oh, spooky noises don't scare us, let's go have a look. And so they Scooby-Doo it. They decide to go out and check it out. This is what gets people killed in horror films. Let's go check out the spooky noise gang. And so they're walking through the woods, and sure enough, they find the source of the spooky noise. It's an abandoned pipe organ that the wind is going through. And they're like, oh, well, let's knock it over. So they knock the pipes over and they're like, there, that's it for the spooky noise. Now let's check out this ruined building over here. It's like a crypt or something. So they just, from one horror trope to another, let's check it out, to let's check out the spooky crypt. Let's go down in and examine the crypt. And sure enough, it's the crypt that the witch is buried in. And one of the doctors has the genius idea of taking the mask off. And this is where the film basically picks up again, is he has taken her mask off and he nicked himself on the mask, so now he's like bled on her a little bit. And so from that little bit of blood, she's able to, vampire her way back to life a little bit. She's able to conjure some powers and start gathering her strength again. And for most of the film, they're like, oh, spooky noises, there's some explanation for that. And they're just constantly dealing with the supernatural. And the film really does keep you guessing about what's going to happen right up to the very end. Like, I'm not going to give away things, because what I've told you now basically is the first, 20 or 30 minutes. But it does keep you wondering, what's going to happen? How are they going to approach this problem? And what's their solution? And sure enough, there is a conclusion. I will tell you that much. It's only 87 minutes long. Go give it a watch if you want to see. Yeah, I will also have to give special shout-outs, credit-wise here. They actually used regional stuff, I would expect. Perhaps Mario Bava's from Italy. It is super Catholic. I have to imagine he himself is also super Catholic, just because, it's Italy. In terms of countries that are into Catholicism, Italy is number 3, right behind the Vatican and then Malta. They're just super into it. And so it feels to me that it would be very easy for somebody who follows one religion to be like, symbols of another one don't have an effect on the supernatural because they're made up. But mine does. And to his credit, no, this movie is just full of Orthodox symbolism. And symbols, the cross here is Orthodox. I want to say Greek Orthodox because I think the Russian Orthodox is the one that's slanty. They also include a triptych, which is a little folding thing that contains within it scripture and an image of a saint. In the Orthodox Church, they deal more with saints than they do directly with Jesus. Kind of a thing they do. And that's why if you go into Orthodox churches, you will see images of saints on walls and stuff. Because if you have an issue, you're supposed to go to the saint that deals with it. That's their deal. And so that's what this is. It's a little, it opens up and inside is, instructions on how to deal with witchy vampire beings, and I guess also a blessing of Saint Belmont or something. I don't know. Which saint deals with vampires? And also the priest that they're dealing with here is also just, this is a very Orthodox look. This is a very Eastern Orthodox look on this guy. It kind of reminds me of, I had a discussion with a friend recently about an X-Men comic I had back in the day, where the X-Men fight Dracula. Wolverine pops his claws out and makes a cross with them, and it doesn't do shit because Dracula's just you're not a believer, so fuck off. And then Nightcrawler shows up with a couple of sticks and does some real damage to him by making a cross, and he's just oh my god, that sucked so bad. Summon the lightning to deal with this guy. And so Nightcrawler had to start getting out of there because there was lightning. And then later, when he's got Kitty Pryde by the neck, she's wearing a Star of David around her neck, and it burns his hand because she's, Jewish. So this feels like they've gone the direction of, this is an interpretation on vampire stuff that I enjoy, is it's the strength and conviction of the wielder of the symbol of faith that actually empowers it rather than, the actual thing itself. Easy way to get around picking favorites when coming up with supernatural drama. I will say, obviously, Mario Bava is regarded as a big deal in the industry. The British Film Institute said that if there was a Mount Rushmore of horror directors, he would be right up there next to Alfred Hitchcock, which is obviously high praise. The cinematography is, like I said, it's it's impeccable. They, have people walking into the camera. They have, just well composed shots. The lighting, some of this stuff felt like it was filmed at night even. Like, the lighting felt so stark contrasty that I was like, is this being shot at night? Is this taking place at night? Like, there was a girl who was tasked with milking the cow, and I'm like, it's like 9 p.m. based off of the lighting in this scene. What are you doing? Let her do that tomorrow. Of course she's spooked. It's the middle of the night, and there's stuff with witches going on in the woods. Come on. They used a special effect technique in this film that I've read about before, and I thought was very interesting in concept. Like, so this film is black and white, and let me start with this. The Addams Family. You look at their house. In real life, this is all pink. Pink shows up better on film in black and white than other colors. And so in order to make sure that the actors popped against the background, it was all pink. What we can take from this is that working in black and white, the conditions of the colors on the set obviously don't make that big of an impact, or at least they're not that noticeable to the camera. And this means that you can actually play some interesting camera tricks. So what they did in this film was they put makeup on the star, and they used one color makeup to do contours and stuff in one direction, and then they used another color makeup to do them in a different spot. So that way, the two different colors would blend together just fine on black and white under normal lighting. But you can make it so that one of these kinds of makeup will pop more than the other one by just changing the color of the lights on the set. So if they have green lights and red lights on the set, what they can do is they can slowly turn down the green lights and slowly turn up the red lights at the same time, and then the two different color makeups will sort of change. One of them will suddenly show up on film more than the other. It's like if you look at something red through a red lens, it looks white. And that's the principle they used here in order to make it look like she aged 100 years in a minute. Very neat to see in action. And speaking of seeing things in action, so I looked for this on the Criterion Collection on the app, and it's not available for streaming on the app. At least not right now. I don't know, maybe they do like Netflix and they cycle things in and out. I don't know. But it's not available on the app to stream, so I needed to go to other sources. It's right here on YouTube. You can just watch it on YouTube. I don't imagine it's public domain. He only died in the 80s. Yeah, 1980. So this shouldn't be public domain. But it's here on YouTube, and the version that I watched actually has a nice little intro that I kind of skipped over, but maybe I'll go back and watch it, I don't know. By the, I assume, proprietor of the channel. She looks like she's very into horror and has large hair. We will maybe check that out. And yeah, speaking of checking things out, let's check out what we're going to watch next week. Go! Blah. Alright, as predicted, we have the roulette wheels, spinning them up and sending them down into the thing. This is probably the fairest way to start off, because everybody sort of comes in from an equal position. It's not like Horse Plinko, where some things are definitely ahead of others. Alright, down into the tunnel, and out front is My Colt is a Passport. They're splitting up. My Colt is a Passport over here, things are bunching up over there a little awkwardly. We're down this track, there's a speed booster there, some things are flying way off the track. Oh god, like half of them are dead. Alright, sure. Killing of a Chinese Bookie, still out front. I think that's a Cassavetes film. Followed by My Colt as a Passport. Phantom of the Monastery, coming up over on the other side of the track. These guys have dropped down through this funnel and they're fine. Nothing has fallen off since. We still have out front. Wait. Have things moved around? It's hard to tell with how bendy these tracks are. Yeah, there's the Killing of a Chinese Bookie, still out front. Followed by A Colt is My Passport. Over here we have The Last Hurrah for Chivalry. Getting ahead of the Phantom of the Monastery somehow. They're coming up onto the same position here. There's a spinning comb. These guys... wow, the Killing of a Chinese Bookie just bypassed that comb entirely. With a commanding lead, there's nothing that can be done to stop it. It is the Killing of a Chinese Bookie in first place, followed by A Colt is My Passport, and Charade almost at the same time, The Fabulous Baron Munchausen, Night Moves, Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, Cecil B. Demented, The Velvet Vampire, Teorema, and Repo Man. And then coming in over the line at the end is The Last Hurrah for Chivalry and Brazil. Alright. My favorite software is Being Here is way in the back. What did you do? Well, you didn't catch fire, so there's that at least. You finished the race, unlike so many others. Alright, well that is official. Our winner is The Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Let's see our final results. Yeah, alright. 16 fell to their deaths. Absurd. Alright, well, I already listed off the first 10 places, but then it was Phantom of the Monastery, Kiss of the Spider-Woman, Last Hurrah for Chivalry, Brazil, My Favorite Software is Being Here. What's the deal with Killing of a Chinese Bookie? Pull up my thing here. Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Item number 41 on my list. It's from 1976. It made the list because it's one of the films Winona Ryder picked when she went into the Criterion Closet. It is, as I remembered, directed by John Cassavetes. Big deal. And it is a neo-noir crime film. Hour and 108 minutes, so almost an hour, almost 2 hours. Which is fine. 7.30 out of 10 on IMDb, so that does sound good to me.